StraightallDay.com.
Fixes for the AWOL effect. So just yesterday I was explaining what the AWOL effect is and how the people that I help often are dealing with these AWOL effects, knowing that you have skill, knowing you have ability, but at the same time you are not getting the outcomes you want and you don't feel like you have the leverage to use that ability to get more of those outcomes. I explained what the problem was. We diagnosed it. I described some of and hopefully all of your symptoms, or at least many of your symptoms. There may be others. Today, we're going to talk about how exactly do you fix this? What do you do if you confirm that you have come down with the AWOL effect? We confirm you have the virus. What do we do about it? So I told you the problem yesterday. You should always anticipate a solution. I'm not going to leave you hanging. There's no such thing as a problem that does not have a solution. If it didn't have a solution, it wouldn't be a problem. It would just be a circumstance, but this is a problem. So let's talk about the solutions to the AWOL effect here today. Point number one. Today's topic again is AWOL effect fixes. Number one, first thing you got to do is get the mindset in the right place. And the way you get your mindset in the right place to fix the AWOL effect is by making a decision. What is a decision? A decision is a conclusion come to after some level of deliberation through which you cut off every other option besides what you have chosen to do. That's what a decision is. Every other option is eliminated and the only option left is the one that you have concluded, the one that you have come to. The first fix, as always, starts anytime you're trying to change anything in life. The first fix is always changing the way that you think. There's always the first thing that gets fixed. And you must decide who you are. And in deciding who you are, that includes deciding who you are not. A big part of who you are not is not about what you are, is about what you are currently tolerating that you will no longer tolerate. You see, what I just tell you a decision was. A decision is about cutting off certain things, not about adding things, it's about cutting things off. A lot of people think advancement and changes and making quantum leaps in life or just making things better in any way is about how do I add and pile onto what I already have going on and put something on top of all this, when what it actually means is removing things and taking things out of the way. It's actually a matter of addition by subtraction, as we say, rather than what many people try to do, which is addition by addition. That usually doesn't work. Usually the more things you add on, you actually subtract, because you're subtracting from your available mental capacity. You're subtracting from your attention. You're subtracting from your focus every time you add new things in, because now you're dividing it even further and diluting your most potent weapons, which are your attention, your focus, your energy, your time, and maybe even your money. So a big part of making advances is about what will you no longer tolerate? What are you cutting off? What do we want to cut off here? I remember being in a coaching program years ago where one of the members told me, one of our mastermind calls, he said that the $1 million entrepreneur, Dre, does not tolerate the same things that the $150,000 entrepreneur tolerates. And the explanation there, the metaphor that he's explaining, is that as you go to higher levels, you cannot tolerate the same things you tolerated at the lower level. That's the deal. That's the way that it works. And he was 100% correct. So as you ascend in any aspect of your life or your business, whether we're talking money or anything else, you must allow fewer things to continue existing. Why? Because at a higher level, these things are not allowed. Those were allowed down there. They're not allowed up here. That's the way that it goes. So fixing the AWOL effect begins with fixing your identity. So the first fix is internal, not external. That's about the tolerating of things. For example, any of you who's played a sport, I remember playing basketball. In my era coming up, there was a hierarchy that you went to play sports. You played in the street, like recreationally, then you would play for your school, high school. If you were good enough, you got a chance to play in college. And if you were even good enough then, even better, you got a chance to play in the pros. And I was able to play at all four of those levels, different amounts, but at all four of those levels. Back then, there was no option to just become an influencer or a YouTuber in basketball. You had to climb the ladder, and you climbed as high as you could. And when you got to the height that you could get to, then that was pretty much it. And maybe you went on to be a coach or a trainer or an analyst or a supporter, something like that. And I'm bringing that up to say that the things that I got away with doing in street basketball, when you play recreational street basketball, there usually are no coaches or anyone calling you out on bad habits. So if you have bad defensive form, or you don't even try on defense, or you fail to box out for a rebound, nobody's going to say anything or call you out for not doing it because there's no coach and nobody's going to say anything. Now, you go on your high school team, you don't box out for a rebound, and you let the opponent get the rebound over you, your coach is going to take you out of the game and yell at you in front of everybody. Because the same thing that you can get away with in street ball, you couldn't get away with in high school. You go from playing in high school to playing in college, the players are better because you got the best players from high school are the only ones who get to play college ball. Whatever you got away with in high school, you can't get away with that at the collegiate level because the players are too good and they'll penalize you for your mistakes, meaning your opponent. You have bad defensive form, somebody's going to score on you a lot more easily than they would have in high school because the players are just better. At the pro level, the exact same thing. So at every level, the things you could get away with at the previous level, you can't get away with at this level. That's the way that it works. So fixing the AWOL effect begins with fixing your identity. And first of all, it comes with an understanding. This was okay down there is not okay up here. So this is an internal change, not an external change. The internal changes happen first. The external changes are simply byproducts of the internal adjustments. A lot of people try to start with the external and then they'll change the internal, or they don't even consider the internal and this is the reason why a lot of people never make positive changes to adjust their situation because they're focused on the wrong metric. They're trying to fix the wrong thing that's not actually the problem. What you're trying to fix is a symptom when you need to fix the root cause. It's like if you got a runny nose, you don't need to buy better tissues. What you need to do is figure out why your nose is running, which is not just because there's something wrong with your nose. Nothing wrong with your nose. Your nose is just a symptom of a bigger problem. Everybody following me here? So you set new personal standards and raise the floor of what is acceptable. This is how anyone makes any type of change in life, at least change that lasts. Change that is real and is tangible and there's some meat on the bones, as I like to say, is you have to set new personal standards. This used to be okay. Yesterday, I accepted this, but now today, that's no longer acceptable. I raised the bar, and when you raise the bar, what you do is you cut off everything that's below the bar. When you lower the bar, what you're going to do is lose a lot of things that were above the bar because those things that were above the bar want to be in a place where being above the bar matters. So if you lower the standard, then being above the bar where it used to be no longer matters. So those things or those people are going to find their way to somewhere else where that standard does matter. When you raise the bar, anyone who's not willing to meet that level, they disappear. And this is exactly what you want to do to get rid of that AWOL effect is how do I get rid of anything that I don't want in my life? The first thing you do is you raise the standard so that that thing no longer can exist in this space. It can't breathe here anymore. There's no oxygen for it. So now that that thing goes away, now your level automatically raises. As soon as you raise your standard, your level automatically goes up. Now, this is assuming that your standard is a real standard, meaning you're not just paying lip service to the standard. Like you really mean that this is the standard. This is where I'm at. This is really where I'm living, and this is really what it is. As soon as you do that, you have raised your level simply because you can't accept anything that's below that level. As soon as you say nothing below this level is acceptable, guess what? Nothing below that level can exist in your world anymore, ever again. You just changed the entire game for yourself that fast. So when you set a new personal standard, you raise the floor on what's acceptable. Instead of saying, hey, I could do more, or I hope that something works, it changes to, I will not operate beneath this level. I must do this much. And this is the standard that I've set. And anything that's below this standard is not acceptable, is not okay. I won't stop until I've hit the standard. See, if you don't have that level of clarity, you won't do anything, or you have not made a decision that there's a certain standard in place and you don't put a structure in place to meet that standard, well, there's not going to be any progress. I mean, you could talk, you can think, you get motivated, even excited, but there won't be any progress because your mindset has not become non-negotiable yet. Your mindset is a non-negotiable operating system. What does that mean? When you're getting rid of the AWOL effect, your mindset becoming non-negotiable means you say, this is the standard, this is what I got to hit, this is what has to get done, and if I have not done this, then I'm not at the level where I'm supposed to be at, which means the job is not done, my work is not done, I cannot continue. I cannot continue, I cannot pass go, I cannot collect $200 because I haven't done the thing that I'm supposed to do up to this point. So your mindset becoming a non-negotiable operating system starts with you setting, follow my language here, setting in your mind clear standards. Even better if you write them down so that they are committed to paper. They're also committed to memory so you can look at them and there's never any ambiguity as to where you stand and what you're about. This is what I'm setting as a standard. This is completely non-negotiable. Standards by definition are non-negotiable, by the way. Standards are not desires. They are not preferences. They're not wishes. They are set in stone. Standard means this is a hard line. And there is no going beneath this line. There is no crossing this line. Everything must be at or above this line. That's what a standard means by definition. So as soon as you set that mental standard and your mind is non-negotiable on that thing, whatever is above that line is where you're going to be. All you got to do is set the line to where you want it to be, where you want to be in life. As soon as you set the line to a place that you want to be in life, you have no choice but to get there. If you really mean it. Again, assuming that you really mean it, you have no choice but to be there as soon as you set it as a standard. Because once you set something as a standard, now you got to figure out a way to make it real. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the fixes for the AWOL effect if you ever find yourself falling victim to this effect. Number 2, you got to get the roadmap in reverse. We got to build a strategy. What is a roadmap in reverse? This is where we start reverse engineering the outcomes that you want to achieve in your life. How do we start reverse engineering those outcomes? The same way that a navigation system or Google Maps will help you map out where you need to go, what turns you need to take to get from the airport to grandma's house when you arrive in town. How do we start reverse engineering this entire process? That's the roadmap in reverse. This is how we build the strategy. So you start from the goal and you build backwards. The challenge that happens is a lot of people who are experiencing the AWOL effect usually get stuck because they try to solve their problems looking forward instead of solving their problems working backward. Now, it seems to make sense that you should be solving your problems looking forward, but it actually doesn't work that way. It's better to solve them looking backwards. This is another reason why people mess it up, because they have an inaccurate formula as to what works versus what doesn't. Most people ask themselves questions like, what should I do next? Have you ever found yourself asking that question, what should I do next? And when you're asking yourself, what should I do next, you're guessing. The real power is in starting at the destination and deconstructing backwards from there. That removes ambiguity and it ends overwhelm and it creates the leverage that we've been talking about. Because AWOL effect means without leverage. So it's not about you doing more stuff and doing the right stuff and doing the right thing right now. It's doing, let me back up. It's not about doing more stuff necessarily. It's about doing the right stuff and doing the right thing right now. Now, how do you know what the right thing is? Well, if you're guessing, what should I do next? Well, you don't know. You're guessing. That's guessing and knowing are two different things. See, once you have the map clear, you're no longer just hustling. You are now targeting. See, when you're using Google Maps or you're using navigation in your car, or you use the Maps app and it's connected to your car while you're driving, you're giving it a target. What does it ask you? Where do you want to go? Let me open Google Maps right now. Open Google Maps. Open up Google Maps on my phone. No, that's not Google Maps. Open up Google Maps. It says search here. And when you tap the search area in Google Maps, all it's asking you is to name a place, right? It's asking, where do you want to be? Where's the location you want to be? So I'm going to type in Disney World, because I was talking about Disney World in my live stream the other day. So looking at Walt Disney World on Google Maps, and I push directions, it tells me it would take about 3 hours to get there as of this time that I'm recording. Or it could take close to 4 hours if it says 3 hours and 11 minutes if I pay tolls, about $15 or so in tolls. And if I take a road that has no tolls, a route that has no tolls, it would be about 3 hours and 51 minutes. And it's telling me that would take, let's see, what's the distance here? 194 miles roughly. What's the point? I'm giving it a target. I'm not guessing. I'm targeting. There's a big difference between targeting what you want to do and guessing about what you want to do, or hustling and hoping that you're going in the right direction. See, a lot of hustling involves hoping, because if you know where you're going, then you don't have to hustle. You just target. All right, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm going to do. And then you execute. Hustling often involves some level of ambiguity. When you're targeting, you're working with precision. And we talked about precision just a couple episodes ago. Same way you put a location in the Maps app when you drive, you tell it exactly where you want to be and it tells you exactly how to get there. That's how we build strategy. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the fixes for the AWOL effect. Number 3, codify and execute. This is with regards to your systems. Codify and execute. What does this mean? This is all about turning your plan into a repeatable structure so that variance decreases and you're able to do the same things the same way every time. I talked about this in episode number 2013. Let me make sure I'm giving you the right episode. That is episode 2013. The same things the same way every time. People experiencing the AWOL effect are not lacking in ability or talent or desire. None of those is your problem. None of you is missing ability, talent, or desire. What you lack is something that is repeatable, or repeatability, also known as a system. A system is repeatable. System does the same things over and over and over again the same way. So when you're under the AWOL effect, you will have maybe a great day or a great month, followed by a crash day or a terrible month. The fix is to build a system that makes success the default, makes it the normal thing, not an exception that happens randomly. And this is what happens a lot of times when someone's experiencing the AWOL effect, is that it's not like you have zero success. You have successes, it's just that they are not even necessarily few and far between. They're just episodic. You have these episodes of success, then you have episodes of nothingness. And you're wondering why this is happening. It's because the system's not in place yet. You need to make success your default normal thing, not a random thing. This means you have to codify and document how you're able to achieve the desired outcomes, so you're no longer relying on your memory, on your motivation, or on even an individual person, including yourself, who could possibly be a failure point. See, the system becomes its own entity. A person is an entity, a business is an entity, a system is an entity. So you want to create an entity outside of yourself that becomes the system. Doesn't mean you can't still, or that you can, or that you don't still work, but the system is doing more of the heavy lifting than just you as a person. The system tells you what lifting to do, but the system is telling you what to do. All you got to do is follow what the system says. That's where you want to be. Understand that your execution at that point is not about you hustling. Execution is about you running the system or following what the system tells you, because the system already knows exactly what the target is. It was set up that way. We talked about system discipline several episodes back here. System discipline means setting up your system such that it already knows what the target is, or it can be programmed for a specific target, and then it always, every single time with very little variance, gets you to that target. That's system discipline. And execution is all about following what the system told you, not thinking about how you feel or what your emotions are in the moment. So instead of trying harder, you're doing what the system is telling you to do. That's it. Just do what the system tells you to do, because we already know what the system is calibrated to achieve. As long as you execute it, you're good. So instead of guessing, you're now following a structure, and that structure, again, like the navigation app on your phone, knows exactly where it's going. And even if you mess up, it tells you how to make a different turn to get back on the path that you're supposed to be, so you can still get to the outcome, at the scheduled time. Or maybe it's going to take you 5 minutes longer because you made a wrong turn. But instead of starting over, now you start stacking wins when you're following a structure. And all of this leads to the very inevitability that we were just talking about not too long ago. It does not require that you become a more talented person. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to work harder. You do not have to become smarter. It just means that you need to have a system in place and the discipline to follow what that disciplined system tells you to do. And putting that system in place and disciplining that system so that it's giving you the right details and the right instructions to do the right thing, that's what I specialize in. And that's why I'm telling you, go to Work on Your Game University so you can work with me directly on this stuff. So let's recap today's class, and then I'll tell you more about what to do and how to do it when it comes to the university. So we're talking about the fixes for the AWOL effect. The first thing you need to do is decide. This is your mindset. This is about setting new standards for yourself. When you set yourself a standard that nothing else below this level is acceptable, then you have no choice but to achieve at that level. That's what a standard means. Number two, roadmap in reverse. This is building your strategy. Working backwards, deconstructing from where you want to be to where you are here today is the way you do it. Instead of guessing and trying to think, what should I do next? Instead, you're thinking, now that I know what the backwards plan is, the reverse roadmap is from where I want to be back to where I am here today, you absolutely know what your next step is. You don't have to guess. When you take guessing out of it, you give yourself a whole lot more time and a lot more precision, and you can act with more decisiveness because you know exactly what you're doing. Number three, codify and execute. This is your systems. It's all about turning your plan into a repeatable structure, also known as a system, so that there's very little variance and it is repeatable. Instead of you having to hustle, guess, or even be a much harder worker, you just do what the system tells you to do, because the system was disciplined, designed to achieve a certain outcome. As long as you follow it, the outcome is pretty much guaranteed, as long as you follow the system. At this point, you start stacking successes rather than guessing over and over again or starting over and over again, trying to figure out, what do I do now? What do I do now? Instead, you want to operate by a system that tells you exactly what's going to happen, and it knows exactly what steps need to be taken to make it happen. Inside Work on Your Game University, with me as your direct coach, we do all of these things. We get the mindset and the standard in the right place. We craft the strategy by road mapping in reverse where you want to be from where you are here today. And then we systematize it all out so they can be done over and over and over and over again. I coach you along the way. I hold you accountable along the way. And I am available to you along the way to make sure that every step is followed the way it needs to be followed. All of this happens at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all